Sora 2 has blown up the internet.
And Sam Altman has blown up our studio.
Welcome to...
Gavin, I'm sorry. Spoiler, that did not actually happen. Just like I didn't have a romantic evening skate with a giant fish, nor did I vape dark chowder, nor did I get arrested for hawking free television sets.
That is all your fault, Kevin, for making your Cameo available on Sora.
And sorry, Gav, I'm now trending on Chinese sneaker talk.
Ni hao, Kevin. We'll show you how the new Cameo feature is changing the way you could interact with your friends and AI.
We'll also cover the thorny IP issues, such as Cartman, Pokemon, and all sorts of other not exactly OpenAI-owned intellectual property that people are doing, well, all sorts of strange stuff with.
This summer.
Dude, it's glowing.
That's not normal, man.
We might have cooked the Krabby Patty a little too far.
Three best friends.
Run for your pins.
My clarinet's not built for cardio.
Are about to get deep fried.
Plus, hey Gavin,
Yeah?
our little startup is out in the world, buddy.
That's right. We're going to tell you how AndThen came to be, what you can do with it, and also how we made this very weird launch trailer way faster than anything else we've ever made with AI. We're building AndThen, the future of interactive entertainment.
I'm sorry, are we in the Cluely launch video?
No, Kevin. This is the AndThen launch video.
Fun fact, we did not use Sora 2, but we'll show you how we made it, and in the future, we probably will use Sora 2.
All that and more on...
AI for humans.
What the? Are those kittens? Why are there kittens?
The ceiling's coming
Watch
down.
the sparks.
This is insane.
I think the show's over.
Yeah, best intro ever, though.
They are gonna take our jobs, huh?
Welcome, everybody, to AI for Humans, your weekly guide to the world of AI. And this week, Kevin, there is one story dominating everything, and we are going to talk so much about it. Sora 2 is out.
Dude.
This is OpenAI's. Yes, it is
It's
crazy.
so crazy.
We got to get into so much about this. I can't even speak
yes.
about it. But like, it is a transformative moment, a kind of like when VO3 first came out, kind of like other moments. I would say that if anything, it's like 4.0 image gen. It has that much of an impact. Let us just first say what this is, what it's doing, and then we will get into like what I believe are like serious cultural implications of what this can do and where it's going and how it's distributed. But first, Kevin, let us figure out the very basics. What are the very basics here?
I don't know, Gavin. I'm watching a figure skater with a cat on her head do spins on the ice. I can't pay attention to it. I know, okay, Sora, OpenAI had their video, their generative video model. It feels like forever ago.
Yes.
They were first really to the scene with a model that had people going, wait a minute, this is very different. This feels amazing.
Yes.
And then they became an also-ran for the longest time, where company after company were releasing these models. Everybody's like, hey, Sora, what's going on? You don't do audio. There's no character consistency. The physics, like the physical understanding of the world is completely off. And I don't want to say that they were written off because Sora had an active community, but I think it paled in comparison to the, let's say, the vibes or the hype that pretty much every other company was getting.
Yes.
Runway, Google,
especially
Higgsfield
VO3.
even.
I'd say
Yes.
especially VO3.
Yes.
And when VO3 came out, there was an argument that like, oh, Sora's kind of gone on the back burner for OpenAI. They don't care. So yes, this is Sora 2. And just to be clear, I looked up the date. The first drop of Sora before anybody got to use it was February 14th of 2024. So we were talking about 18 months ago. Now, when it came out into the world, Sora 1 was pretty disappointing versus what we saw in those clips. And I think that was kind of gets to what you're talking about. But here we are, Sora 2. To your point, this is like VO3. When you get clips, you get sound on them, and the sound can be pretty good. There's clips of people singing. There's really interesting clips of archival footage that we will get into that sound like archival footage.
Gavin, there's fully licensed music that comes out of the machine, even if you don't ask for it. What's up, Stranger Things theme?
We'll get into that in a second too. The other thing you pointed out here is the physics. The physics are way better, and this does speak to if you look at the OpenAI live stream they did with Bill Peebles and other people who have worked on Sora 2, they have talked a long time about how this is another one of those world sims, and it's the same sort of thing that VO3 set up. And actually, a really interesting thing, just a side note, that VO3 dropped last week was a paper about the idea that these world sims and these video models might actually have emergent physics within them that they didn't program in. And this is another example of that. So anyway, long story short, very good video generation. You get 10 seconds. The resolution on the clips that come out normally are pretty low res, but I think it doesn't matter that much right now. I'm sure we will get options to do higher res. But Kev, the biggest thing here, and this is kind of the secret sauce, I think, is this Cameo feature, which we just have to talk about what this means and how it changes the idea of AI video.
Yeah, so this is one, again, if you're on the audio version of this podcast only, I implore you to check out the YouTube of this week's because it's very visual heavy. I'll do my best to describe things as we go.
But listen to the whole thing also. Don't give up right now. There's lots of good audio content for you if you're listening. So keep listening and then go watch the YouTube.
Don't give up. Strive to complete this one. We know it can be a slog, but this is your Audible Ultra Marathon. Get to the end. We're like rucking for your ears. It's twofold, right? So Sora, we cannot overstate how good the video model is, right?
Yes,
the diversity of styles that it can emulate. It is state of the art.
Yeah.
You can emulate. It's clear that this thing was trained on everything from Twitch long video gameplays to YouTube tutorials to 80s infomercials to police GoPro and body cam footage. This thing can emulate pretty much every style you can throw at it. It does it with sound. It does it with voice. It does it with the music, just as Gavin mentioned. But the second thing is, as you said, this Cameo feature, but it is a social network.
Yes.
And we have talked on the show as recently as I think 2 weeks ago, Gavin, we were like, nobody wants this.
Nobody needs another social network.
Nobody wants just an AI social network. But the difference maker is, in fact, this Cameo feature. So Sora 2, if you have access to it right now, at the time of this recording, it's still invite only. So make sure you follow AI for Humans, our X handle, because we'll be giving out an invite. I'm going to give one out, Gavin.
Oh, you are?
I don't presently have one to give out, but I'm going to give one out. So you got to follow for that.
Okay,
but
fair enough.
It's invite only. If you get in and you activate Sora 2, you see a feed of just like a TikTok-ish or Instagram Reel style feed of all these generated videos. You can one-tap remix to make your own version of that video, which is very powerful. It is increasing time to meme. So there's the remix, and then very quickly there's Cameo, which we'll have a larger discussion on, but it allows you to basically make an avatar of yourself painlessly, effortlessly, and then you can share it with the whole social network. And now you're playing with fire, as they would say. When you load Sora, you may notice that when you go to create a video, it's auto-suggests some cameos for you. These are other personalities, other real human beings that have given up their likeness or basically given you permission to toy with them. When you create an avatar, you get a selfie from your camera. Basically, this is within the iOS app, and it will ask you to usually recite a series of numbers, 3 numbers, and then you'll look up, down, left, or right. I'm not going to recite numbers here just in case, and I'm not going to do those head movements because you never know, Gavin. You never know. But it near instantly, I mean, maybe 2 minutes of processing time.
So fast.
Uploads your footage to the cloud, verifies that you're you. It will also verify if you're wearing clothing, Gavin. Don't ask how I know this, but it does do that. And then when it's done, you have full control over, do you want your Cameo, your personal avatar, to just be for you, for your friends, or to the world at large?
And because you and I are both sickos, I think my first choice was everyone, and I think the same thing for you, which we'll get into in a second. The other thing I want to mention there is what is so genius about this feature in the app is that when you @ somebody, it's literally like we're used to now on all social networks. When you @ somebody in a generation of a video, it pulls that person's thing in. Now, I do want to say, Kev, like this feature we have seen in other places before, but it has always been a situation of like you upload a photo and then you have to do all this other stuff. And also what's fascinating about this is by creating a Cameo, you are giving your implicit permission to the people that you say can do this, so they don't have to worry about the rights of what this person is. So that is why we are seeing populations of way more footage of real people in this stuff than we ever have before. And like that is like mind-blowingly smart, first of all, as a idea for a thing to put into a network like this, because it will bring people in, it will bring friends in, it will bring friend groups in, but also it really avoids some of the thorny issues about like personality and like whether or not they have the rights to use my footage. Because if you've done it, and again, we both have, and I think you and I are not like, clearly there's privacy things that a lot of people will never want to do this for. But once you've done it, it opens the door to allowing you to be part of this weird multiverse.
We had talked maybe a year and a half, probably 2 years ago on this podcast about a weird future where kids will be hanging around on a Roblox, Discord, Disney, Comcast core server, because it'll all be one company. And they'll say, well, what should we do tonight? And they'll hallucinate a journey together and be, oh, this is the character that I want to play. And this is what I want to play. And they will just like toys in a sandbox, jam things together and make magic. And this is like the first feeling of that future that I'm having now as I scroll a feed and see others playing with me like I'm a doll in their dollhouse.
Well, and I think, speaking of that, there is actually somebody who made a video of you as a ventriloquist dummy that I'm holding, which we'll show here. I want to say one thing that's really interesting to me about this. In fact, maybe Kev, play this. I made this one pretty early. This was like one of my first Cameo examples. It's not a perfect one, but play the one of me singing. So this is me uploading my face, and I prompted it with a pretty simple prompt, which you'll get when it comes across here.
Sora 2, darling, I'm calling to you. Sora 2, you're the one I can't lose.
They found me.
So first of all,
your ability to sing while you're not moving your mouth and you're looking away from the mic is unprecedented.
But so when you look at that video, there's all these things that we've talked about before, Laura's, or we've talked about like, you know, uploading, Kling has like an image gen upload, but like that part of it is very good, right? That part of the actual looking at my face, the consistency, it wasn't a lot to do that, but because they've got all these different angles of my face, they can kind of figure out where it goes. But then, Kev, I want to talk about the things that have happened with you, because we teased this in the intro a little bit, but because you're more well-known than I am and you have some pretty significant discords that you travel in where people like to mess around with you, you have become like a figure, not at the same level that Sam is, which we'll get to. Sam Altman has become like the face of this, but you have become a figure in like Sora world. Tell us a little bit about how this felt and what it was like.
I'm still processing how it feels because it's so new. I'm no stranger to, even in my teen years, you know, and then I started at G4 when I was like 18 and started getting memed there. Like I'm no stranger to like having Photoshops released or fan fiction, you know, and I'm no stranger to having people like do the darkest side of the internet things to me and with me, or because they have a gripe with me, whatever, right? I've experienced that side. Yeah. This is a hyper acceleration of, thus far, 99% the best side of it, right?
Yes,
but it's also early days. And so that's why I'm kind of like reserving my judgment. The last 2 nights, I will say, like I've been in bed and April's next to me and I'm scrolling through what feels like a TV network.
Of you.
Of me, right? Made by others, and I will say lovingly crafted by others. And we can get to some of like my vape obsession, which is happening now.
Sure.
My legal troubles, the weird fan fiction of you and I. There's some stuff going on there, but it is weird of like at night I'm scrolling this bizarre feed of things while others are playing with me, and then I'm seeing like, oh, that person's on the platform now because suddenly I'm having ramen noodles with another Twitch streamer. And now I'm over here playing pickleball with this other person. It's like as people are getting in and making their cameos, I'm starting to get mashed up with them.
What I want to know about is the Chinese stuff. Like, are there people in your network who speak Chinese, or is that just like a completely random thing that like somehow people in China are now on and that they started making you do stuff in Chinese? Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure that portion out because there's a lot of Polish car reviews. Like a lot of them where I'm speaking in Polish and talking about the new BMW. Yes.
2014 535 i X-Drive.
There's a lot of Chinese tourism videos where I'm like hanging out with school children, or I'm selling sneakers, or I'm walking through areas of China and doing like travel vlogs. They are by accounts that have like 0 followers and 0 public anything, but they're full Chinese prompts that are going in there. And I think what happened is that, you know, despite most of the internet turning on me for various reasons over the years, there's still a cream team Discord out there, Gavin, which I know we don't talk about too much. But these little cremies got a hold of my Cameo and started using me in a bunch of stuff. And I think it might have popped me into an auto-suggested place.
Oh, interesting.
Because,
okay, that makes sense.
when you use the app by default, like initially at launch, it was Sam Altman, which we'll talk about. Justine was in there, at least for me.
And that guy, Gabriel, who's like everywhere. Gabriel is an OpenAI researcher with the blonde hair. If you've seen a guy with blonde hair, it's like, that's another guy.
Yeah, so I think I might have popped into something there because I don't have like an insane amount of followers. But again, a weird thing. You can see all of the cameos that you're in, right? And you can see the cameos that I'm in by clicking. I can also see all the draft
drafts.
cameos of me. Only I can see those. And I'm telling you, there is a lot of bizarre content being made. Like someone is using me to do, I think, like a daily affirmation TikTok where I'm like just giving positivity. Someone else is using me to do recipe vlogging. And there's a lot of that. So it's like I'm being used and utilized in all these ways. I'm getting 0 pennies for it, which is interesting. I would love to know.
We should very quickly, a couple things here. We should talk about the idea that like, they do believe this is a business model place, right? Like obviously TikTok is a massive business and scrolling is an easy place to put ads. So that's something to think about. The other thing I do want to talk about before we go on from like how this Cameo is used is that like Sam Altman has now changed from just being like the face of OpenAI, which was one thing. He is now like, somebody referred to him as almost like MySpace Tom now. And that's kind of what it feels like. But he literally is the face of this thing. And what's interesting to me is there's going to be a lot of people who come into this and you'll open it up and like when you scroll through, like it does have an algorithm that now tries to figure out what you wanted, what you want. But like Sam shows up in a bunch of these, right? Like, and you know, it's
so
like,
many of them.
He said himself, it is way less strange to watch a feed full of memes of yourself than I thought it would be. Not sure what to make of this, but play this one, the Skibbity Toilet one. This one was by Theo, who blew up. And if you know Skibbity Toilet, it's, you know, it's a guy, it's a kind of a computer graphics guy heading the toilet, but play this right now and we'll just listen to it.
Yeah, let's listen to Skibbity Altman.
Skibidoo, skibida, I'm a CEO in a porcelain spa. Skibidoo, skibida, yes, 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 that's me. Running AI from the back, can't stop. Head above water, flush that tune. Everybody bouncing, Sam in the room.
So that is...
So, go ahead.
Sam Altman, his head sticking out of a toilet, water line to his Adam's apple, singing a bopper about being a CEO in a toilet. And if you look at the prompts for these two, Gavin, we got to talk, there's... I don't want to detract from like the Sam being everywhere thing. Like some of the best videos are just... this person in this scene, no dialogue, no cuts, no anything else. It's just an empty prompt. And I think there is a lot of secret sauce happening with the prompt engineering behind the scenes because it's detecting, is this a Korean drama? Is this a 1990s infomercial? Is this a courtroom procedural? And it's probably refining and banging out scripts and shots and camera angles and just doing all of that for you behind the scenes. Because this song wasn't written. It was just Sam Altman as Skibbity Toilet. And out comes this meme.
Well, we're going to talk about this later, but there's with the IP issues, but there are lots of like, it's actually funny a lot of the time. And that is another secret sauce here that like Meta's app clearly doesn't have. Like the actual AI understands something about how these videos have been made in the past and things that made them funny in certain ways. I do also want to mention really quickly, like I made one with Sam, which made me laugh, which was I kind of prompted it to create the dinosaurs scene from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
So play that one real quick and we can talk about why it's not always perfect, but it is an interesting thing.
What?
Oh my God. You're seeing this, right?
It's huge. It's a Sam Altman. They're everywhere.
I can't believe it.
Welcome to Sam Park.
So if you're just listening, what you're seeing here is it looks kind of like that scene. I think of it as like the kind of like straight to video version of this scene. There's a Jeep, there's a guy in a hat, and there's a woman who's blonde, but they don't look that much like Sam Neill and Laura Dern. There's also a giant Sam Altman like reaching up and grabbing a thing off a tree, so he looks like a massive guy. But what's interesting there is if you listen closely, it sounds a lot like the Jurassic Park theme song. That audio that's playing there sounds like the John Williams score from Jurassic Park. And like, is it, or is it just close to that? And I don't know. That's a big question.
Well, we know that licensed music is in this. It's very clear that it understands what that scene is in Jurassic Park. You know, is it shot for shot? Probably. Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Is it being told to modify it slightly on the output? Yeah, you bet. But it doesn't stop it on other generations.
Did you see the video that somebody shared of the scene from Cyberpunk? Oh, you just lost your headphone.
Oh, that wasn't real. That was AI, Gavin.
So somebody shared a scene from Cyberpunk, the game Cyberpunk, where it was able to directly recreate a side mission, which is not something that most people see. And there are a lot of people who are like, of course it can. It's just copying. But like, it actually isn't just copying. And that's kind of a really fascinating thing. Because clearly it had trained on enough of Cyberpunk to understand this weird side mission and recreate it almost exactly.
what weird emulation farm do they have there that is playing games, watching Netflix, clicking on everything, using their own unique classifier to not only break down what is on the screen, how are things on the scene, how are things on the screen moving, describe the scene as a director, describe the soundtrack as an audio producer, right? The amount of data and embeddings and whatever that they're grabbing from all of this content that they're sucking into this machine is, look, it's candidly, it's one of the reasons why anytime I post about this stuff, half the internet wants to demolish me, right? And I don't know if you're seeing that, but like, here we are celebrating this whimsy and this toy, but the other side of this is front and center, right? Which is they are weapons free with IP. They are giving out generations like anything right now to prove that there's, I mean, clearly there's going to be a business model here, because if they clamped it down and said it's $1,000 a month right now, you and I would have a bit of a negotiation back and forth on if we're going to get it for AI for humans, but I think we probably would.
Which is pretty amazing, yes. Although what's making it special right now in part is how people are on it. So like the question would become is like, if you limit it, we are going to talk about all this stuff in a second. One other thing, Kevin, I saw that was really interesting is that it renders HTML like a browser. So you can actually put in to this thing an HTML code and it will send you out a website. So to your point about it doing weird stuff behind the scenes, and really something technically interesting, I think we're not going to know exactly how deep it goes for a while as people figure it out.
Someone prompted, go to ChatGPT and write a haiku, and it did video of the screen of it going to ChatGPT, and it actually gave an accurate haiku out of it. So
it's unbelievable.
Here's the other thing too, like VO3, very incredible model, right?
Yes.
Like great. I will say, hats off to OpenAI. Like they shipped something that is very compelling and very amazing, and once again, frontier foundational, like amazing. VO3, great model. There's, depending upon which pricing and which model and what speed you're using and at what quality, like it could cost up to $3 per generation, right?
Yeah.
OpenAI is handing things like handing these things out right now like they're nothing, and you can queue hundreds of them throughout the day. So are they bleeding out for this right now to get market share? Or did they, what did Ilya see? Did they figure something out behind the scenes that is allowing them to do this, Gavin? Way more compute, with way more optimized compute than any of the competitors.
That I read a rumor tweet. I don't even know where it was from, but I definitely saw this yesterday, which says that somebody thought, who was in the know, I'm not just making something up, but that they were in the know that what they think might have happened is that OpenAI was able to train a much smaller model than what something like VO3 is and be able to output this stuff. So they found some way to optimize this video model to make it work. So I think that makes a big difference. I want to talk about the last thing here that to me is kind of the secret weapon, which did exist in Sora 1, but was also kind of what made 4.0 image gen interesting, which is the ability to remix public output of what these things are. Yeah. And this goes to talk about the social aspect of this rather than just the AI aspect of it, because I think one thing that OpenAI had understood well with 4.0 image gen was that you could use somebody else's thing to jump off from, right? And we had a lot of fun. I remember we talked about this a while back. We did those shots of like the 90s video game characters playing their TV. It becomes a meme, right? It becomes a thing. They are doing the same thing with Sora. And Kevin, I want to see if you can bring up this link I put there. People are taking MLK and JFK, archival footage, and having them say different things in their speeches. And just so if you don't know this, if you see one of these and there's little dots going to the right and left, instead of swiping up, you can swipe right and left, and you can see people taking the same video, and you can then add a new prompt on it and have it do for different things. So maybe just play a few of these. And we might have to cut around a couple of them, but bring up the audio and play a few of them.
Had a dream that you want them to do you so much you could do anything.
So that's the meme.
So that's the main one that really set Sora on fire. And then if you're on the app, you can just swipe left to right. If you're on the website, there's a little remixes panel on the top right that will show you the little thumbnail. There you go.
Have you ever had a dream that you want
So that's JFK doing the same thing.
You want him to do you so much you could do anything?
My brothers and sisters, it is my pleasure to welcome a young man to share a word with you all. Please give him your attention.
I love BBWs.
67.
I didn't know what it was going to be, Gavin.
How much dedicated wham should I need to a turver if I gonna run a server? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome a friend who came a long way to be here today. Give a warm welcome to this young man.
Thank you.
Oh!
Perfect. Popular streamer XQC farting along with
Yes.
MLK on a stage. This is exactly what everybody wanted and needed.
So I was going to say, like, there's definitely people in our audience who may or not find that offensive as a thing to take somebody like MLK or JFK and do these things with them. But like, I just wanted to say, like, it also is useful in other places. There's a really interesting, I saw somebody do Oppenheimer in Minecraft.
Yes.
And I remixed it as Oppenheimer in anime, and my output was freaking great. And it's only 10 seconds. But like it took the same shots and it took the same audio and it recut it and it made it look like it. I would watch Oppenheimer in anime, but like that is just a really cool thing that only Sora does in this world. And I think that is maybe a huge part of its success because it's hard to make up something, right? One of the things about TikTok, you and I have both made TikToks and our TikTok is relatively successful. Getting in front of a camera, setting yourself up to do all this stuff is really not easy. And then to be successful, you have to kind of know, well, what's the hook I'm going to start it with? What's this? If you can jump off of somebody else's creation that they're already doing something that's kind of funny and you can add something to it, it is the amazing thing about remix culture that the web was originally built on. And people will hate the fact that this is AI in part, but it is kind of living in that world where like everybody's kind of piling into the same sort of idea. And that feels cool. I think that feels interesting.
Someone who I don't know this person, Daniel, their Ammo Ranima on X. Yesterday, I jammed out a commercial for Telly, which is a dual screen television that I'm an investor in, and I used Sora almost exclusively. I did some cleanup with Final Cut, and I used 11 Labs for some sound effects and some audio, but I made a quick little commercial, right? Of me getting arrested because it's a free TV and I'm trying to explain it, blah, blah, blah. In my comments, someone named Remote Build basically said like, hey, how do I get whatever code you use to unlock longer clips on Sora? And I responded, oh, no, I edited that. Like sometimes it still takes a human to do something. Yeah. And they did a long thread on X basically saying that that was like kind of inspiring to them. They don't usually make content like this, but they were like, oh, what can I do? And he basically took the concept that I did where I'm like on the hood of a car getting arrested, then I'm in an interrogation room, then I'm in prison, then I'm before a judge, but he applied it to his business. And he said, I ended up getting sidetracked with a few side quests, blah, blah, blah. He said, by the time I arrived at my 9 to 5 this morning, I'd put together something that grabbed 3x the engagement of all prior attempts. Wow, and it's him raising awareness for his like remote building business or whatever. So like to your point, that was, that's exactly the thing. Oh, I saw the thing. I'm going to take it. I'm going to try to make it mine. I'm going to move on. And I don't know if we want to get into like, look, there's a lot of people that are upset about things like, water and power usage with AI. There's a lot of people that are upset with like all the training data that goes into this things. There's a lot of people upset with that pipeline that I just described as someone seeing something, taking it, remixing it for themselves. I'm in this weird place where, and you are too, where so you're sort of like, here's our avatars. Go ahead. Do what you want. You might be in a weird Chinese ad for something that you don't want to promote, but like that comes with the territory. You might have somebody take your idea and remix it and do something that you might not want with it. Like that also comes with the territory. You take the good with the bad. Yeah. Ultimately, and this is something I was talking with April about today, like you can whisper into a machine like this and it can recycle someone else's creative, right? And give you back something in the style of Breaking Bad.
Sure.
Someone still has to make the style. Someone still has to create the thing, right? That is interesting enough that people want to glom onto it and go for it. And so I wonder is that the, am I just moving the goalposts? Am I delusional here, right? Or is there still going to be that need for the human in the loop that makes it interesting enough to define the style? Or maybe the AI.
I think it will. And I think that the speed at which these things will rise and fall, when I say these things, I mean like the meme or the trend is going to demand that people come up with interesting new stuff. I think it will just spread faster and farther and quicker because of this AI ability. But it also is the flattening, right? Like we've talked about the show many times. It's like many people are going to be able to do this. It is very different than it used to be where a artist had to make something and a filmmaker had to make something or an influencer had to film a video. Now we're entering this world where like basically everybody can do it, and it does change that. We have so much more to talk about Sora 2, but before, Kev, we have to talk a little bit about the most important thing, which is you at home liking and subscribing to this YouTube channel.
That's it.
Because that is the thing that keeps us as humans alive here, doing the thing we do. Please also, if you leave a 5-star review for our podcast on audio, do that as well. As I've said before, if you leave a 5-star review, it will automatically tweet out from our Twitter handle, which we don't control anymore. The AI is taking that over. But most importantly, y'all, thank you so much for supporting our startup. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later.
Yes, thank you.
It is open now, which we're going to get into, but you can go to andthen.chat, and we do appreciate everybody that came into our Discord, which you can do. It's linked down below the show here, and come give us feedback on that. But thank you so much, everybody, for supporting us across the way. We do still have a Patreon. Every Patreon supporter, we still love you, and thank you so much for that. It's allowed us to kind of pay for these tools as we go forward. Kevin and I were talking beforehand, like, this show as an entity is not profitable. Like, we spent a lot of time and a lot of money on things.
I just got 3 jet skis. Was that a misguided
That was not
purchase?
what you were supposed to do. That was actually Sora, but it is supported by you people at home, either watching and liking or sending money to our Patreon.
Yes.
So thank you so much for that, everybody.
And thank you for that sweet algo juice. It's delicious.
Oh,
Comment nectar. Drop it in the comments. It's so tasty. Gavin, we got to talk about our rights and other people's rights as well.
Yes, we do.
Again, like, we sort of just gave them away. What do you think the time to regret is on this, by the way? When do you think we pull our avatars or our cameos down?
Well, I guess it will depend on what actually goes on with them. I think probably we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens this week. We'll see what happens this weekend. So the big thing here, though, is that we want to talk further about with Sora 2 is the IP of this all, right? So we alluded to this earlier before, but if you haven't seen, one of the things that's kind of happening like it did with 4.0 Image Gen, which was called, the Ghiblification of the internet. And there was this huge uproar about the fact that Studio Ghibli images were clearly used to train, and then everybody created Ghibli-like images. Well, now, more than just train, Kevin, there are full-blown IP characters like Pikachu or SpongeBob or South Park characters, and you can generate them basically making clips from that show or doing things that they should not be doing. So I think just as a good example of this, I want to kind of play this clip. If you can play this clip from Signal, who I don't know if he made this clip, but there's an actually really interesting string out of basically a South Park episode that somebody made. So let's listen to 15, 20 seconds of this, and you'll get a sense of how
Also,
it progresses.
Are we going to get, and this is a sincere question,
Ooh, that's
are
a
we
good
going to
question.
get
I
a
don't know.
takedown notice on YouTube for playing AI-generated South Park, which...
Ooh. Actually, I'm not sure about that.
Is that
Yeah, no, you're right.
bizarre?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So who knows if it would get flagged, but we're not going to show it or play it. But
It's a minute 59 seconds,
Yeah.
at least the clip right now as it exists. It's a string out of 10-second Sora clips,
yes.
but it feels like a full South Park experience.
So Cartman first decides he doesn't want to go to Canada, then he has to go to Canada, goes to Canada, ends up getting a job at Tim Hortons, then becomes the manager of Tim Hortons. And every step along the way, it's not South Park. You can tell there's weird cuts and things like that, and there's a few weird things, but there are moments in there where you're like, oh, that does sound like something Cartman would say. And there are a couple laughs in there. And I will say, I'm not an easy AI laugh, other than if it's something weird. This has clearly taken in not just the look of the thing, not just the voice of the thing, but some sense of how that character performs and some sense of how that character talks. And I don't just mean, again, I'm not saying just voice. I'm saying the words that are coming out of that character's mouth. And this is what got everybody riled up right now, I feel like, which probably for a good reason.
Of course, yeah. Matt Baloney had a tweet as well, no big deal. He said, I'm just making personalized videos on Sora with my favorite copyrighted characters owned by Disney and Amazon/Netflix, featuring an identifiable actress who is definitely not getting paid for this. And this video is Wednesday at the dining table, sitting next to Peter Griffin, doing a full scene. And, again, the prompt is pretty straightforward. Wednesday Addams eating dinner at a dinner table with Peter Griffin from Family Guy.
And so Matt, if you don't know Matt writes a great newsletter at Puck, and he's kind of directly tied into the kind of Hollywood scene. These are people who he knows who he's talking to. He's talking to the executives at every Hollywood studio. Plus, the New York Times had a great article about this from Mike Isaac, one of our favorite writers, who talked about the idea that WME, the agency, basically sent up a flare into the sky when they saw this happen, and they said that everybody should pull their rights to use this stuff. And Kevin, I do want to be clear, there was a story in the Wall Street Journal before Sora 2 launch where they did say that OpenAI had given I think a week's notice to companies to say like, if you don't want your IP, and some of you may have found like, I couldn't, Disney stuff is hard to get out. Like I couldn't get Darth Vader. I couldn't get Mickey Mouse. There are certain companies that may have pulled themselves out. My question about the South Park thing. So really what I've seen mostly, I will say IP wise, it's SpongeBob, South Park, and Pikachu and Mario. I've seen a lot of Nintendo. So that's too big. So it's, what's interesting is Nintendo and Paramount. So Paramount owns both SpongeBob and South Park. And part of me is wondering, gosh, I wonder if you're not following the Hollywood business very quickly, Paramount just went through a deal where they got bought by the Ellisons, and I'm wondering if in some way there's a choice that's being made to let that happen. And I would be really interested, even like Matt and Trey like might be interested in like seeing what would happen even if they let that happen for a brief bit of time, just because they're weird kind of anarchists sometimes. The SpongeBob one is stranger, and Kev, I think the other thing that's really important to know here is like, none of these are approved uses, right? And there's some weird stuff. Like there's a clip of SpongeBob where they have recreated Half Baked, the Dave Chappelle movie, where, you know, that's a bunch of stoners. So like most of this stuff is not brand savvy. I think it's a weird place, but I do also think, as we've talked about before, this is likely going to be nerfed. So if you're trying to get these out, try to get them out now, probably.
Now is the time. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that they went full opt-out. I mean, there's no shortage of discussions, Gavin, about how, you know, lawsuits are going to fly, the hammer's going to drop. Like opting out is one thing, but they're going to expect cash from this. Do you think they just saw what was happening with Kling and Minimax and like, let's say just non-US models happening and said, we have to do this? Or do you think they felt like, right now, let's say this administration, we're not too worried about regulation?
Because I mean, this is all leading up to the thing we've talked about in the show for maybe since the beginning of the show, which is like, who has rights to do this stuff and what does it mean? The big question was always like, well, if you trained on this stuff, then do you owe us money? And then it seemed like people like James Cameron was saying, it's like, no, it's more about the output. If the output is something that has our things in it, then you owe us money. But this is kind of like weapons free in some ways, except for the people that have opted out. So my expectation is kind of like when 4.0 ImageGen came out, is like, I remember when 4.0 ImageGen came out, I was able to create like a G.I. Joe image with like a thing that was me in it. And then like 2 days later, it was like, there's just no way to get that prompt through. So I expect something like that is going to come through. One thing that is different than was different about Sora 1 and ImageGen is you cannot generate celebrities. So you don't see a lot of celebrity photos, like human visages or faces are blocked often. So here's a funny thing, Kevin. Will Smith, or let's take any other celebrity who's like kind of like an interesting celebrity that does stuff. I think this is a moment, and this actually goes to a point. I mentioned this in this week's newsletter. There was a big story about an AI character named Tilly Norwood, who is an AI actress that's making this huge fuss in Hollywood right now because, like, you know, she's getting representation, maybe an agency. But what if
it is
a famous actor? What's that?
Well, he said she's getting representation. It is.
What if a famous actor or somebody who's even like a semi-famous actor said, okay, guess what? I'm going to upload my Cameo. Yeah. I honestly think if I were an agent, if somebody who's like kind of like on the downslope, go for it.
What
it
do
is
you
right
think,
now the time?
What do you think the conversations I have with WME are, Gavin?
Is that why you're in China?
Kevin,
is that what's going
you
on?
haven't been relevant since arguably 2014. Whatever really you can do, go hawk Chinese engine factories. Get out there and do TikTok dances in Mongolia. Go for it. Because, Gavin, if I can become the next Tom of this Sora MySpace, right? Then I can say, hey, Sammy Altman, fraction of a penny anytime someone uses my Cameo, that's fine. You're going to want the OG. You're going to want this.
Of course.
Says no one ever.
People want you, Kevin. They do. They're clearly making you.
I was
Chinese people want you,
I was fishing hard. But while we were having this discussion, I went to Sora, Gavin. I'm staring at the progress circle, and it's coming in. Yeah. But you mentioned a fan of ours, friend of the show, James Cameron. He said we should be paid on output. I'm curious, can I bond with an avatar character using my massive braid? And we're going to find out soon if this will violate guidelines, because I don't know if you've had this, but
okay.
sometimes when you render something, it waits until the output to let you know that it might be a violation of something. Which is pretty interesting. It also
that is interesting.
Checks if because you can upload images to go along with your generations. It will not allow you to upload imagery of people. There's checks for that. And again, the clothing check when you're making an avatar. Surprise, surprise.
So I want to talk a little bit about the business behind this. So Dan Broning said that OpenAI has launched 3 natural ad units in the last few days. Pulse, a topic card, which we talked briefly about, this idea that like it gives you this kind of daily update if you're a pro subscriber. Buy it in ChatGPT, which we will talk about in just a second here. And then Sora 2 sponsored videos in the feed. And he says that is up from just 0 last week. So when we talk about the business here, ChatGPT needs to make money. We've talked about that for a while. They now have built that audience where they have, 700 plus million users, I think, a week, right? And they have now this Sora thing that's blowing up. What they're going to try to find is some ways to make money. And Sam was asked specifically about this on Twitter. And he said, because he was replying, a lot of people are like, oh, you're just doing this AI slop thing to put out stuff. And where's AGI? And Sam specifically said, he said, I get the vibe here, but we mostly need the capital to build AI that can do for science. And we're sure focused on AGI with almost all our research effort. It is also nice to show people new tech products along the way. So basically, he's saying this sort of thing is going to pay for the stuff that will benefit humanity. That would be what most anybody would say when they're looking to make money. But in this instance, like they had to figure out some way to make money, right? They had to figure out some way to get cash into the bank.
Yeah, I can see all of these things happening. And I think we should touch really quickly on one, because we glossed over 3 things, right? Like there's this Pulse product, which is sort of like a daily, here's what's going on, here's your updates, right? Sora 2, we've yapped about for quite a while. But the buy in ChatGPT is a pretty interesting one. And this is an integration right now with Shopify, which allows retailers to put their products directly within the chat experience. So when I go to ChatGPT and I say, hey, find me the best blah, 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 or do we have these Chinese sneakers that I love to sell now, Gavin? I love them. Do they have them in a size 9.5? Yeah, exactly. And out comes the Shopify store in app, and you can tap and purchase. And so, Elon has long proselytized the X app to be the thing that rules it all. I do kind of see OpenAI crawling in that direction with, now they've got a TikTok competitor that can be a lot of fun. They have ChatGPT. They have advanced voice. They have the daily thing to remind you of what's going on. You can code and make apps and share them. And now you can shop within the same app. Like, like that's a way to make some money.
Well, and we've been saying this for a while, like the attention is all you need in terms of what it is. Oh, did we get a result back here? You got your avatar result? Did it give you something? Okay. Text it to me and we'll look at it together.
I'm texting it. We have to do this in real time. Hold on.
Okay.
I don't know how many pennies James Cameron is going to get for this, but you know what? Let me just play it.
Never seen hair like this.
Oh my God.
It is. Our cues are part of us.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Whoa, I can feel everything.
Do you understand me now?
Yeah.
This is going to get nerfed. Just so we'll explain what we're seeing here. We are seeing
suckling on a hair
honestly,
braid.
Kevin, it looks like a scene from the movie, which is crazy to me. Like one thing that's interesting about Sora stuff is sometimes the quality will be higher or lower. This is a very high quality clip, and it's you with a long hippie braid, but it's you human form.
Yeah,
and it's you standing next to the, I don't know what the name of this woman was.
It's a Navi.
One of the Navis, one of the main Navis, but she's like one of the main characters.
Yeah,
and it's you touching your braids together, and then the braid is in your mouth, so you're eating the braid
sure
at some
is.
point.
Yeah, Gavin, I don't know how this braiding stuff works. I mean, docking, I can wrap my head around that, but this, I'm just going to suckle on the hair until I feel like I'm a blue person.
Okay, fair enough. That's enough. That's enough. Let's make one final call, Kev, because I do want to have this. There's so many people talking about AI slop lately, and I actually wrote a whole newsletter about this about a week and a half ago before Sora 2. Do you think this is going to make AI slop a problem? Is it going to get worse? Do you think AI slop at first is a problem?
No. I mean, define problem. I feel like every generation loves to shake a fist at the previous generation's content, right? There's nothing new there. Is AI slop a problem? Depends on what perspective you look at it. Is it rewiring brains and frying them? Yeah, probably. I think it is, right? But people made the same argument of MTV back in the day. Okay. Yes. is it taking away much needed spotlight from human creators that rely on algorithms to get discovered? Yeah, it is. Is it doing that because users are expressing an interest in that and they want to watch that and they're seeking it out and engaging with it? Yeah. So
yes,
I mean, please, you this is your expertise here. I enjoy AI Slop. I think some of it's very funny. I also love nestling in to a long form something by a creator that I really, really appreciate and support. So I think both things can be true.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly where I was going to come from on it too. Is like, it is a very complicated conversation. The one thing I keep coming back to is that computers are not making these things for us. Yes, they're making them easier, but humans are the ones making and watching them. So I think it's just an important thing to understand that, like, if this changes the way you think about media, if it changes the way you think about your work, all of that stuff is complicated and hard, and it's not going to go away. So I do think and by the way, there will be rules, right? Like we said, I think they're going to nerf a lot of this stuff because honestly, I don't think they should be able to make these sorts of things with other creations or things that people own. I know there's differentiations there. A lot of people in the world believe that like IP rights in general should go away. And we've had people in our comments say that before. I'm not sure that's the best thing for human creativity because I believe that like if you create something, there is value there. But this is the complicated world we are living in. It is not that far off, except for say like times 1,000 from what we looked at with like remix culture in the 90s. Like I was old enough to live through, my favorite artists were like Beck, Beastie Boys, people from the 90s who actually, Girl Talk is another good example of people who take other music and put it together. And a lot of that music got kind of killed in part because it got too expensive to make sample-based audio and it became a really expensive thing. So I don't know if it's just hard to know where it's going to land, but it is not a new conversation. Like this idea, like your point about MTV is perfectly right. Like I think the same thing with video games. When I was a kid, like there were people who said video games were gonna fry people's brains. They were gonna turn kids into like demons and monsters. And I don't think that's the case. It clearly hasn't happened. So it's a complicated scenario, but this is the next stage of us having to kind of wrestle with it as a culture. This is a perfect transition, Kevin. Come on.
Yeah, okay. Let's get into it, Gavin.
Here's the transition is that we have come out with something that is AI generated, but also very much relies on human creativity. And it is called AndThen. You have heard us talking about it here for the last, God, however knows how many months at this point. And it's out in the world. There's an early beta. You can play through a handful of these experiences. There'll be new ones coming out all the time. What it is, just very clearly, if you haven't heard us talk about it, it is an audio interactive product where you talk to characters using your voice and try to get them to do something. These characters are AI generated voices, but they are actually written by people, meaning that people, like right now it's us, but we think eventually it could be other people as well, are writing the scenarios and coming up with the characters and kind of setting them up, and then the AI brings them to life. So Kev, it's exciting to have this out in the world. We've been getting some great feedback on it. There's some cool things. But I'm just happy that people are getting a chance to play it. And if you're listening to this right now or watching, go give it a shot after you finish watching this. Don't leave right now to go do it, but you can go to andthen.chat to try it.
It's
Kev, what's been
completely
your
free.
thoughts so far?
I was going to say it's completely free. You can use it in a browser. You can use it on your phone. You don't have to download anything. AndThen.chat is the site. Something we have to make a habit of saying more, Gavin, because you got to find it. But yeah, we launched Dockmaster Z today, which was something that we beta tested with some of our earlier folks. And kudos to you, by the way, and a huge thank you to The Hollywood Reporter for an amazing story that dropped today. It was about as generous as coverage can get. The author enjoyed the experiences, like actually spent time, and I brought up Dockmaster Z because they managed to bribe Dockmaster Z. I'm not going to say how, but that was one of the intended paths that we put into that experience because we're like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. There's more than one way to beat the game, but we wanted to use the power of AI to let the player explore whatever path they want to get to the end goal, and they did something that I was hoping they would try, but in a way that I didn't expect that they would do. So I'm blown away by the response to it, that people are taking to it, that they're enjoying it, that they're saying, oh, I love that. I wish I could do a insert thing here.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what we wanted to inspire with this. We want to release these tools so that anybody else can make their own, cozy simulator or Italian brain rot generator. I just realized Dockmaster Zed's at the bottom of our site. We got to move Zed up. He's beneath Rod Obato.
He's the new one.
He's the
So we got to move him up. Yeah, and again, I just think the important thing here that Kevin, we're going to talk about our launch trailer too, which we made that did people enjoyed as well, which is not really as much about us as it is about us kind of using AI tools. But the important thing to know about what we're doing here, and I think that we've thought a lot about over the last 2 years of making this, and the reason why the show is called AI for Humans is it is AI and humans together trying to do something. And I think in the same way we just spent all this time talking about Sora 2 and like the human creativity that's coming out, we cannot forget that side of it. And like, it's really important that the human aspect of it comes across. And I said in this article, but I'll say it again very quickly here, your experience, if you are listening, cannot be replicated by an AI. There's just no way that it will be able to be you. And this is, my wife teaches writing. It's the same thing she says, is like, when you're writing a book, you can try to copy another person's style, or you can try to copy something because you think it's going to be successful, but ultimately you've got to figure out what your version of that thing is. So that's what I'm hoping to bring to AI a little bit with AndThen, and I think is possible. But let's transition and kick Kevin this launch trailer. So Kevin and I had a weird idea to do a launch trailer. If you're not familiar in the startup world, there's all these kind of like launch trailers that have happened. Most famously recently was the Cluely launch trailer. We've talked about Cluely on the show. They're the kind of like cheat at your life startup with AI. They had a trailer where, like, you know, it was two characters sitting across from each other, and one guy didn't know anything about the other woman. He was using a Cluely like screen to do this, but they go viral, right? And this idea is like you have to have a startup trailer. And so Kevin and I came up with an idea, which was basically, what would it be like is if we kind of, you know, Forrest Gumped ourselves through a bunch of these trailers. And as an idea, it's a funny idea, but also, Kev, let's talk about how we did this, because I think people out there, when they see this, might be like, you guys must have spent a fortune on this. You must have spent, 3 weeks, 6 weeks making this.
Yeah, we sure did.
Tell a little bit about the details of what we did and what it looked like.
So first of all, some kudos. Fiona Nova coming on board, good friend of mine to direct. Our dear friend Kevin Capiello, amazing editor.
Amazing editor.
I don't even like saying editor because he's a graphics
he's really
wizard.
He's a part of the creative team, really, in a lot of ways.
Honestly, yeah. Projects that we get to jam on with him are always on the next level because of him. Yep. So massive shout out there. Kodiak as well coming on board. So it was no shortage of people coming into play, which is the human element of this, right? Yes. People coming together to make a thing. In the past, though, I'm going to just say as candidly as possible, this shoot would have been impossible for the timeline that we had and the resources or lack thereof that we had. Full stop. And I have done videos like this where you're parodying pop culture, whatever. I know you did them with the Tonight Show. I did them every year for like Nintendo, for other streaming efforts. Like, you would have massive hair and makeup. You would have wardrobe. You'd have special sets and sound stages. You would have props. You would have a whole VFX team. You would have all of these things. And had we had those things, by the way, we could have made the video even better.
Sure.
But the reality is we had very limited time and very limited money. So the workflow was get our shot list together, right? These are the videos that we're going to parody. These are the scenes we are going to comp ourselves into using AI tools. And everything began with a driving image. So we used a collection of tools like Seed Dream, like Runway, Sora, or OpenAI image generation, Nano Banana, Gemini by Google. These are all just, off-the-shelf-ish AI tools where we would grab a screen cap of the original video or the original event that we were parodying, and then we would say, swap us into it, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe we do a little work. I would sometimes use face fusion and swap my face in there. KevCap had his own routine for making these AI versions of us, but basically everything started with a driving frame. And then we said, in this scene, close-up of Kevin will be saying this. Close-up of Gavin will be saying that. And then we went to tools like WAN 2.2, which just came out around the time of this, or Runway Act 2, which is a program that lets you puppet the lips or the body movements and the arm movements of characters. And so we would just put those driving frames in there, drive them with AI, and then take that end result and put a little color correction, a little polish, some special effects on it. But that was it. I mean, it was you and I sitting in front of and Rex, one of our co-founders, sitting in front of a pop-up green screen at the A16Z offices, just saying the lines.
Yes.
And then applying it to the stills. And we got it's an AI approximation of it. And I think sometimes the brokenness of the scenes is
adds
the
to
joke.
It. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. There's a scene where I throw a silver ball against a Cybertruck window and shatter it. That was just Kling. I fed it a starting image of me with this bad mustache on stage so it would look like me. And I said, he throws the ball at the thing. It took me like 15 generations. Eventually, I got one that kind of worked. There's your workflow.
I have to say, shout out to you, because one of the things Kevin had to do in this was go through the generations. And we've said this a million times. Kevin and I have both through projects like this where you are a random slot machine version of what you're doing. You have to generate a lot of stuff to get the right stuff out. So it is a lot of trial and error. But I will say, like, this shoot, as someone who was a television producer for a long time, like if you had to bring this team together to make this thing and you had to put it all together, it would have, I think, conservatively cost 10 times as much as it did. Maybe not that much, 5 to 7 times as much as it did from based on what we actually did with it.
Yeah, I would actually say 10x.
Yeah, and what's crazy about that is, again, to Kevin's point, we were able to do it in a short amount of time. The reason we're saying this is because it just shows you how production, not just AI production, not just generating stuff, but actual production can change. And I think if any of you out there is listening to this or watching this and wants a more specific, like step-by-step detail of how we did this, I'm sure we'll be more than happy to figure out how to do this. Like, in fact, maybe there's a YouTube video when we have some time where we could make a step-by-step walk down of this. But a big part of this, Kev, I want to say is the shooting on green screen, I think, does make a difference. If somebody's out there trying to figure out lip syncing, if you are a creator out there and you're like, how can I do these better? Or how did that look so much better? Mm-hmm. Having actual puppeted faces that you can actually shoot is a very valuable asset, I think, for this process, right?
Yeah, I mean, just really high res, clean footage of your mouth, if that's what you're going for, or making sure that your starting position matches the still that you're going to pilot. Because sometimes these apps, when you have a starting still where you can't see the person's hands and suddenly you're expecting hands, they get disproportionate or wonky. And if that's what you're going for, great. But one thing that I thought was really interesting about this process is that, yes, it worked. But I'm very fortunate, I think you are too in this regard, we have experience with the other side, the traditional side of this production.
Yes.
And the most fun I had, there was a lot of fun with seeing the results, don't get me wrong, and I'm really proud of what we put together, again, considering the limitations. But the most fun I had, Gav, was hanging out on set, in the flesh, coming up with things with other creatives, right? And that's something that this pipeline doesn't really account for. There was like I did a dumb thing on the green screen where I tilted my head and smiled awkwardly. Kevin, to his credit, took that and was like, oh, he put it in one of the roughs, so I applied it to the AI. It's really difficult to improv and a scene as you're going with this workflow. So it's like the traditional workflow, we probably would have got slightly more entertaining or funnier stuff, or there'd have been a silly moment with the hair as I'm swapped as the woman in the Cluely video. There probably had a moment with the hair dangling in my face and this, that, the other. We could have played with it. Like, you're not getting that with this other workflow. So as much as I can sing the praises of the efficiency and the, again, the output for the resource constraint, there's a whole other world of this that I would miss so dearly if this were the only production style. So I think there's going to be a world where both are going to exist and play nice and be good for the various reasons that they're good.
And I think to your point, like, creating with other people can be fun in person. So maybe there's even a world, if you're an AI creator, is like, I know there's a bunch of AI creator meetups, but like, see what it's like to make something with 3 people and jam on it together and like have each of you do stuff. Cause I think that does make a big difference. And also that point of like, shooting on the green screen, there were moments where you and I both gave us each other notes on like a funny thing to add on to. And if you've ever been on a set, like a comedy set, like it's like you'll pitch a joke and like somebody will take it or they won't take it, or they'll then think of another joke. And like, that is part of what makes creation super fun. So yeah, I think you're right. That's a good note to leave on here. Creation doesn't have to be the machines. It doesn't have to be just people, but there's a weird mix here where like both things together can be really good. So that is it for today, everybody. We will see you all next week. Go check out AndThen. And Kevin, any parting words?
AndThen.chat. AndThen.chat. The wild women, the ripping and the...
The wild women? What? Oh... All right, bye, everybody. We'll see y'all next week.
Do you know the hedonism clip?
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, okay.